Yo, internet, what is happening? It's not quite the butt crack of dawn, but it's pretty early in the morning. And if some of you saw the YouTube post, you'll kind of know what we're up to. S197 things and getting rid of a little problem up front here. The problem? Well, let me show you. So I got this nice fancy wheel, nice body kit now. Angle kit, but we still have these stock GT brakes. And I've wanted to upgrade these for a while now. Just this thing was being developed for a little while, getting the wide body done. I just haven't found time with life and everything, but let me show you what I got going on to fix this problem. Here is a set of calipers that I actually got to take off of a customer's car. He upgraded to some 6 pistons on his S550. So he let me buy his 4 piston base GT brakes that came off of it. And what you'll notice, we got some GM parts underneath them. Now let me go over that. So these have been sitting in my shed for well over a year. And boy, I prepared this shot really well. It's probably the one that was never opened, so let's just get that one out of the way. Yeah, whatever. We're gonna have to open it anyway, right? So, I was looking at the prices of, actual OEM Ford items, and either it was way too expensive or unavailable. I can't remember which one. It was over a year ago. I haven't looked up since. So Rock Auto carries these AC Delco rotors. So there's your part number right there. And these are for either your track packs or your GT500 rotors, and they will work on the S197. You can't use the S550 rotor. So we're gonna throw it on that car. And I'm not 100% sure if it'll clear the wheel or not. These are really high offset wheels. Whether it does or not, I'm still gonna show you how easy it is to upgrade these and kind of give you a cost breakdown as well. So let's get this thing in the air and see what we're dealing with. All right, so car's in the air. One thing I have to show you how to take brake calipers off, but usually just do the caliper bracket, set it aside when you're doing work, but I'm actually gonna take the caliper off the bracket, set it aside, get the caliper bracket off, get the rotor off. Very simple stuff. It's literally gonna be 4 bolts, and then this is off, and then I'm gonna put the rotor on there and show you the one little tip when mounting the calipers, because they're actually fixed versus a floating type, and you have to center them correctly. And last I checked, when I test these with the old wheel setup, which wouldn't clear the bigger brakes and were 18s but were a very normal Mustang-like offset, you have to center the caliper with some washers. So I'm going to see if that's still the case. I'm fairly certain it is. It's very simple. It's a very standard size washer that you need to use to put in between the knuckle and the caliper, but I'll show you that once it's all apart and on there. Conveniently, the angle kit is holding our caliper. 12mm will get you done. It's a good thing we're kind of doing this. Brake pads are about shot there, but yeah, 12mm, and then it'll be a 15mm for the caliper brackets. Just take those out, spin them out, caliper, rotor will come off. Since I'm the laziest YouTuber, do this one-handed. Yeah, just there's your caliper bracket. It's off. I'm gonna reuse those bolts, so keep them handy. And just like that, especially if you live in a dry climate like Arizona, rotor should come off. You might have to give it some motivation or persuasion with a hammer in other parts of the country. But yeah, now I can show you what the big rotor is gonna look like on there and that caliper. Boom. GT 500 / track pack rotors on there. I don't think I mentioned the size of this rotor. It's a 14-inch rotor. So that's, I believe, a 12-inch. And a little hot tip, so if you want that thing to stay put, get some big nuts and our spacers, whatever, because your lug nut, if you're using stock lug nuts, especially not like open lug nuts, that'll help you keep the rotor on for assembly, because with a fixed caliper, it can be a little more difficult to get this on. So kind of convenient here with the angle kit. I'm gonna be able to kind of, without having to stick my head in the fender well, put this caliper on and see where it lines up. So let's get that the correct side on there and see how this looks. So before I slap this on kind of off camera, I wanted to remind you guys, when you got the calipers, make sure you have the bleeder screws on the right side. Now, granted, this is the S550 liner I just kept on there for whatever reason, but you can easily put, like when you don't have a line on there, you can easily put the caliper on the wrong side by having the bleeders on the bottom. You'll never get the air out of the system. So you gotta make sure your bleeders are on top when putting the caliper on. So, caliper is loosely put on there. Another convenient thing is that this came off a low mile car, so I know that since the pads are in there, that the caliper is kind of aligning itself to the rotor. And you don't want to just go hammering this thing down, because there is, see the gap I was telling you about? So we're gonna put, it's a little smaller on this side, but on the other side, it's actually a lot bigger. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm pretty sure I got some washers in my big bolt drawer, nut and bolt drawer, that should work in there. And I'll kind of show you the thickness on the caliper to show you what it takes for to space that correctly. Now, don't take it as a gospel or anything, because it might be different on your car, but that's definitely going to get you close. So something to look out for, just like the one little caveat to this simple upgrade. Cutting a little bit here to say that the calipers off the S550 are not from a base, but they are from a performance, because looking after I recorded the video, which you'll see the rest of, and looking at parts and prices, those rotors are super cheap, by the way. Just looking at the caliper selection through Ford, is a high performance caliper is the 4-piston one that came on a regular GT. So yeah, that's it. All right, I found some washers that are just gonna work absolute perfect. You can actually fit a bigger diameter, outside diameter washer, like a standard 5/8 washer, that'll fit in the machine cutout of the caliper behind the spindle. It'll fit in there just fine. But this is the thickness of the washer I found. That was the hardest part, was finding 4 of these bad boys, 70 thou thick. The 5/8 standard washer is 90 thou. I think that'll be as much as you want to go. But yeah, that's the hot tip. Get yourself some washers. Don't put it behind the bolt like that. We're putting it back here, in between the caliper and the spindle, to space that caliper and center it correctly on the rotor. Also, don't forget, throw some thread lock around those bolts. There's some on the factory ones, but always a good idea. So, wah-wah. These wheels won't work. They have plenty of barrel clearance, but just not enough hub here to clear the caliper there. Now, if I wasn't running an angle kit and I had more, like these fit perfect without any spacer, so I'm not gonna be adding spacers to this at all. The car's wide enough as it is, but that's kind of a bummer. So that's why I didn't take the line off the original caliper, because otherwise I'd have to be bleeding brakes for nothing. I was hoping to bleed these brakes, and unfortunately I can't use them on this car. And I have no other really car to put them on, because the Fusion has an angle kit. It's already wide as heck with a spacer and 18s. So I might give it a whirl next time I have it in there, but because those are on stock S197 brakes as well on the Fusion. But kind of gives you an idea of what you're going to be in for as far as getting these to bolt up. So my thoughts now going through my head is because these are so negatively offset that they put the face deeper in the barrel, because these are custom made, instead of making like, they don't start out with like a thicker hub. But if it was a thicker hub, it would give it a more negative offset. And I'm chasing my tail of like how wheel offset works on the fly here, but yeah, kind of a bummer. But let's go over, I'm gonna take the wheel off and go over what you gotta do here. It's very simple. All right, so remember we got the washers in between the spindle and the brake caliper. These are S550 4-piston brakes. Now another reason that they might not fit is because these stick out a lot further than like say a Brembo of sorts. So these are very OEM plus, and this is a GT500 rotor. So I don't know the cost off my head, I'll do this in the post, but the rotor I bought over a year ago, but I looked up the price now and it is that many dollars. And the calipers, I believe I got takeoff for $100 for the pair for doing the job. Now, if you price these out, each loaded from, let's say, AutoZone O'Reilly's, the average price was that many dollars. Now, as we get into like the lines and stuff, you're gonna need some copper washers. Usually comes with new calipers, but I really wish this was a more complete video so I could show you that the stock caliper line here would bolt up. I am guessing it probably won't, just the way it's oriented. So you're probably gonna need performance pack or GT500 lines, or this S550 line would reach to this location, and looks like it's the same thread. Get that paper out of there. But since I have an angle kit, you might have to manipulate the line, and like I'm kind of stretching it here, so the arm is extended, right, because of the angle kit, but it looks like the same fitting. So that's something you're gonna have to address as well. And like I said, I wish I had a more complete video that showed you how to do this, but the next step, I would figure out the line situation, probably could manipulate that line, but as you can see, the hard lines are pretty different. See, that one's coming out of that side and so forth. So I would look into getting the performance pack lines or the GT500 hoses, I should say, and doing that, always use new copper, and then bleed the brakes. You bleed this side first because it's the furthest away from the master, then bleed the other side, and then you should have some pretty badass brakes. But for now, I'm gonna go back to these junkers and some worn out pads and think about how I'm gonna upgrade these. Probably just get some better rotors, because these are actually what came on the car 5 years ago when I bought it. But yeah, that's kind of the rundown. So we're kind of ending on dud here because I couldn't use this brake kit on the wide body S197. Does look really good though. Such a shame. Had those parts sitting for well over a year in my shed. It's a bummer I can't use them, but hopefully I gave you guys some insight on how to do this to your own car. You probably have to run 19s. I had an 07 back in the day, about 6 or 7 years ago, that had these brake calipers on it, and it was on 18s using RPF 1s. And I think I had to use a 3mm spacer and shave down just a little bit of the flashing on the caliper. Like, it was so close, but it did fit with 18s. So if you're running 19s, you're probably not gonna have that issue, and you're gonna have that bigger hub to clear the calipers, just like the problem you saw here. That's aftermarket. So I tried to do OEM plus. It's not gonna work this time, kind of bummed, but please, if you enjoyed it, like this video, you wanna see more Mustang things and Coyote stuff, please consider subscribing. We'll see you next time.